Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Arundhati Ramnan and here are the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Sensex and Nifty end with marginal gains after a range-bound session. Mid-cap index remains in record territory even as financials underperform. Stock markets rise across the world ahead of the US Fed rate decision later tonight. CNBC survey shows 91% are expecting a status quo. Majority also expect the Fed to hold fire at least till November this year. The India-US relationship is deeper and stronger than before, says Jonathan Feiner, the Deputy National Security Advisor to the White House. Also adds that both nations are working to expand the ties in defense, technology, education, among others. Jubilant Group's founder Hari Bhartiya says India has the potential to be the largest market for Domino's Pizza. Says India's consumption story is in districts and small towns. That's an exclusive. JSW Group is among the front runners to buy stake in MG Motor India. Sources say both companies are yet to put pen to paper. MG Motor continues to hold talks with other interested companies along with private equity investors and dealers. More aircraft lessors taking the legal route against Spicejet over unpaid dues. Money Control accesses two rulings worth over $15 million in a UK court. Three more cases lodged in London's commercial courts. Two lessors have already moved the company tribunal in India against over unpaid dues. More than 45,000 people evacuated to safer locations as the Gujarat coast braces for Cyclone Biparjoy. Heavy rains lash large parts of Saurashtra and Kutch regions. The cyclone is likely to make landfall by noon tomorrow. Fresh violence in Manipur. Sources say at least 9 people were killed in a late-night firing in a village in Imphal East. 11 out of the state's 16 districts are currently under curfew. Internet across the state remains suspended. Former United States President Donald Trump pleads not guilty in court. He faces 37 federal charges of willfully mishandling national security material and scheming to not return classified documents. Those were the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Let's start with the market action of the day. A range-bound session on Dalal Street. Sensex gained just under 100 points. Nifty gained 40 points as it moves closer to record levels. Mid-cap index remains at record territory even as financial stocks underperformed today. Stock markets are gaining across the world ahead of the US Fed rate decision later tonight. A CNBC survey shows 91% of market participants are expecting a status quo. Now, majority also expect the Fed to hold fire at least till November this year. CNBC's Steve Leisman is here with the Fed survey.
You have some surprising results, Joe, from the CNBC Fed survey. It showed our 33 respondents differ with the market and the market pricing in the Fed futures market. They're forecasting the Fed's course is none and done. That is no rate hike now and no more this cycle. I'll show you the top line results here. 91% of the respondents see no rate hike at this meeting. 6% do see a hike. 63% say the Fed won't hike in July either, with 34% forecasting a hike. That differs with the market where there's like a 70% chance of a July hike. The funds rate peaks at 5.24. That's a bit higher than the current rate because some respondents do see that July hike. It raises the average. The Fed is then seen on hold at the peak rate for nearly 8 months. Here's how the rest of the year shapes up according to the survey. More than 80% see no change in September and November. 71% forecast no change in December, but a 26% minority, they are penciling in a cut. So all that white is no change on that board. That's how you understand that. Peter Bookvar, Chief Investment Officer at Bleakley Group, writes in, Jay Powell will talk tough at the presser after not hiking rates, but he's done with the rate hikes. Bookvar says credit tightening from the banks and decelerating housing inflation are going to keep the Fed on hold. One factor that could explain this difference between the survey respondents and the markets is concern about bank lending. Take a look here. 53% said they reduced their GDP forecast for this year because of tighter credit standards. 47% did not. The average reduction was 0.3 percentage points. Actually, that's a big number if you're talking about some of the low forecasts that are out there. Still, there are many who think the Fed should keep raising rates.
And you can catch all the action from the US Fed meet outcome later tonight at 11 p.m. only on CNBC-TV18. On to all the action from the commodity space. Oil prices inched up ahead of the U.S. Federal Reserve's meet outcome. Key economic data from China and data on U.S. crude stockpiles. Brent and NYMEX gained on hopes of rising fuel demand after China's central bank lowered a short-term lending rate. Meanwhile, gold prices also gained ahead of the US Fed meet outcome. Yellow metal prices moved higher in international markets after the US dollar softened. India's wholesale price index for May has continued to be in the negative territory for the second consecutive month. The figure contracted to 3.48%, and this is the lowest since November 2015. The decline was broad-based and largely contributed by fall in prices of mineral oils, basic metals, and food products. The Appointments Committee of the Cabinet has promoted 15 senior bureaucrats to government secretaries. Pankaj Agarwal, Additional Secretary at Defence Ministry, is appointed Power Secretary. Secretary at Shipping and Ports Ministry, Sudhansh Pant, is now Health Secretary, and Special Secretary at Defence Ministry, Nivedita Shukla Verma, is now Chemical and Petrochemical Secretary. Chanchal Kumar will be the new Aviation Secretary. Rajat Kumar Mishra is appointed Fertilizer Secretary, and Subhash Chandra Lal Das is appointed MSME Secretary. These officials will take over their new roles in the next few months. And shifting focus to the India Idea Summit in the United States, the White House's Deputy National Advisor Jonathan Finer has said that India and the US have developed a mature relationship and the ties between the two are deeper and stronger than before. Finer added that the defense sector continues to remain a top priority for the country with India. He also said the two countries are working to expand defense cooperation. Take a look.
It is clear that there are aspects of the current geopolitical environment where we differ and where we are able to have direct and clear conversations on topics, including topics like the Russia-Ukraine war, where there are areas of disagreement, but also areas of very clear alignment. We have developed the kind of mature relationship where we can move forward together in areas where we completely see eye to eye, where we can discuss in a candid and direct way without it emerging into some sort of crisis, areas where we do not 100% agree, like no two nations do. Our two countries consult regularly to assess regional developments and put in place an architecture to cooperate more closely through joint exercises, information sharing, logistics networks, and interoperable communication systems. We continue to strengthen India's status as major defense partner through defense industrial cooperation that co-develops and co-produces important military capabilities for both of our countries.
And you can catch the full interview with Jonathan Finer on India Idea Summit at 5 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. right here on CNBC-TV18. India has the potential to be the biggest market for Domino's. That's the word coming in from Hari Bhartia, the founder and co-chairman at Jubilant Bhartia Group. Speaking to CNBC-TV18 Shireen Bhan at the sidelines of the India Idea Summit in Washington, D.C., Bhartia said India's consumption story is in its districts and small towns. He also called on India and U.S. to collaborate more on regulations, especially when it comes to the pharma industry. Take a look.
One reason of success is continuously bring value to the customer. If I look at our own journey in the last 10 years, I don't think we have actually increased prices, but what we have done is continuously leverage the scale to bring value. If you can give value, you will build scale. And today, it is the second largest in the world. When we started 25 years back, it looked quite difficult. The Indian consumption story is not in main cities only, in main large urban centers that we visit, but is now starting to see in district headquarters, in small towns. Consumers want great product, hygienic product, delivered at great value. So I think the scope is unlimited for US brands who are trying to enter India. Indian companies have set up huge capacities in India for supplying generics to US. Now, obviously, patient safety is topmost important. And now for that, compliance and quality is very, very critical. Now, I think it is important that the US FDA invests more on training people in India for building a resilient supply chain.
Moving on, JSW Group is among the front runners to acquire a stake in MG Motor India, which has a Chinese ownership. However, industry sources say that the Mahindra Group and the Hinduja Group have also shown interest. Speaking to CNBC-TV18 exclusively last week, JSW Group Chairman and MD Sajan Jindal said that MG Motor is on their list of acquisition if they want to sell. Listen in.
On MG Motor, if you are asking me specifically, because I don't shy away from difficult questions, that's also in one of the is one of the lists in our list. Could be one of the options if they want to sell, but I'm not sure as yet.
Okay, a majority stake, is that what you're eyeing as far as MG Motors is concerned? And what else is on that list, sir? You said that that's one of the contenders on the list. What else is on the list?
So when I said list, what I meant was that there are many opportunities, global opportunities, which they all want to, they are knocking at India's doors, and they are looking for good partners in India. So we could partner up with European companies, Japanese companies, Chinese companies. So there are so many opportunities which are existing today.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, you had made it very clear that while you are a believer in free trade, you had said that our rules of engagement, especially on economy and business, needed to be very different with China because, in your words, China had not behaved properly. Now, is there a change in position there as far as dealing with China and Chinese business is concerned?
So there are two things. One is that in EV, China is way ahead of competition, global competition. So therefore, China becomes a natural ally as far as new technology in battery and electric mobility is concerned. So that is one part of the story. On the other side, that if we have hostile relationship between India and China, then obviously we will not work with the Chinese. That is very clear.
Meanwhile, shares of Vodafone Idea surged in trade today. This comes after reports suggested that the company was charting out its business revival plan. The company reportedly proposed a significant equity infusion of 14,000 crore rupees. Aditya Birla Group and Vodafone Group PLC will invest 2,000 crore rupees as fresh equity. This will add to the existing 5,000 crore rupees that was pumped in by the promoters since the government's revival plan was announced in 2021. Shares of Central Depository Services Limited fell in today's trade. This was after over 50 lakh shares worth nearly 560 crore rupees was offloaded, and sources say BSE is the likely seller. BSE holding in the company was around 20% as of March 2023. Ipca Labs has come under the scanner after the U.S. drug regulator conducted an inspection and issued 11 observations. The U.S. FDA inspected the company's active pharmaceutical ingredient unit in Madhya Pradesh and will submit a comprehensive response on its observations soon. Fresh trouble for cash-strapped Spicejet. Two aircraft leasing companies have obtained a summary judgment worth $15 million against the airline in London High Court. Money Control has confirmed that there are at least 3 more cases lodged against the airline in the commercial courts in London. Danish Khan joins us now with the details. Danish, take us through what you are picking up from your sources.
Spicejet has been hit by summary judgment totaling over $15 million by the High Court in London. GASL Ireland and VSMSN are the two airline leasing companies that have managed to get these judgments from the High Court. During the proceedings, the court observed that Spicejet made several attempts to delay the court's timetable. In one instance, the legal team representing Spicejet came off record, citing non-payment of fees. The airline then sought further time, saying that it is in the process of finding and hiring a new legal team. But that did not impress the court, and the judge said that the proceedings must go on and entered a summary judgment against the airline. These two companies are also likely to approach the National Company Law Tribunal in India in their bid to enforce the UK court's judgment. Recently, Wilmington Services, another company that had obtained a summary judgment against the airline in London, has already approached the National Company Law Tribunal in India. I can also confirm that there are at least 3 more cases lodged in the commercial courts here in London against Spicejet. This also includes a case filed by a Turkish company. Given the spate of litigation here in the United Kingdom and also in India, it will be interesting to see what arguments Spicejet will put forward.
Some more trouble there for Spicejet. Many thanks for those details, Danish. Now, government sources have claimed that airfares have seen a significant decline of nearly 60%. This was largely driven by the recent intervention in meetings held by the government. CNBC-TV18 has also learned that the centre is monitoring the situation and is holding meetings on regulating airfares. Danish Anand joins us now with the details. Danish, what are your sources telling you?
Well, the issue around high airfare prices is slowly becoming a political issue as various members of the opposition are in a war of words with Union Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia. Well, sources have informed CNBC-TV18 that after government intervened a couple of weeks back, the airfare prices have dropped by almost 60%. The ministry is closely monitoring the entire situation and daily review meetings are also taking place. Airfare of routes like Delhi to Leh, Delhi to Srinagar have seen a considerable drop of somewhere around 20 to 40%, but still airfare of certain metro city routes are still high because we are seeing a considerably high demand, and moreover we're also in the middle of the summer season right now. The opposition has also demanded government to intervene and keep a price cap, but sources have informed CNBC-TV18 that since airfare is deregulated in India, government cannot intervene into this, and the demand on keeping a price cap will not only hurt the airline industry, but this will also hurt the passengers as the market competition dynamics will not be passed over to the passengers. But all in all, if we see, we are seeing that after government intervention, airfare has come down, but due to supply constraints, all because of gophers being grounded and high ATF prices and summer season, airfares recently have skyrocketed.
So airfares have come down slightly there. Thank you so much for those details, Danish. Now, Northeast India will get its very own airline soon. Jetwings Airways has received a no objection certificate from the Aviation Ministry to operate scheduled commuter air transport services. The airline will fly in the Northeast and Eastern region initially, offering regional connectivity to passengers under the Udan scheme. Promoters are planning an initial investment of 100 crore rupees. Now, here's a story on the potential impact of the HDFC merger on mutual funds. Sources say market regulator SEBI is unlikely to make any relaxation on holding limit. Current rules limit the exposure of a mutual fund to 10% of a company. Yash Jain is here with more details. Yash, no waiver there from SEBI?
Well, Arundhati, before we talk about what has transpired, let's just understand what the regulations are. As per SEBI regulations, for any mutual fund having any particular individual fund or scheme, they're only allowed to invest 10% of the value of that scheme into one particular listed entity. Now, what happens here is that with HDFC and HDFC Bank merger, moving closer to reality, what happens is that the mutual fund schemes which had investment in both these entities, there would be multiple schemes across the sector which would come together, and the breach and the limit of that 10% investment in one entity could be breached. What we've been given to understand is that since this was happening, the Mutual Fund Association AMFI reached out to market regulator SEBI, appraised them about this particular issue and asked for a special exemption when it comes to this particular holding of mutual fund schemes breaching that 10% limit. What we've been told is that market regulator SEBI has decided to stick to the current regulations in this particular context. Of course, this particular breach that would happen because of the merger between HDFC and HDFC Bank would be a passive breach, and hence a limit of 30 days is likely to be given to various mutual fund houses to essentially comply with that limit of 10% under individual schemes. And if there are a non-compliance even after those 30 days, then on a case-to-case basis, if applications are weighed with market regulator SEBI by individual mutual fund houses, then those requests could be considered, and additional 30 days could be given for further compliance when it comes to the 10% investment limit.
All right, Yash, many thanks for those details. On that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up, more than 45,000 people evacuated to safer locations as the Gujarat coast braces for Cyclone Biparjoy. Stay tuned for the special coverage on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still with us on Business 360. Now, the Met Department has said that Cyclone Biparjoy is expected to make landfall on Gujarat's coast between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. tomorrow. A red alert has been sounded for Saurashtra and Kutch coasts. Several district subdivisions in these districts have received heavy rainfall over the last 24 hours. The Met Department has warned that the intensity of rainfall would increase as the cyclone approaches the Gujarat coast. Places across Kutch, Dwarka and Jamnagar are likely to witness extremely heavy rains, and NDRF teams have been deployed in disaster-prone areas. The Gujarat government has already evacuated over 40,000 people.
5,535 लोगों को कल शाम को 4 बजे तक हमने सरकार द्वारा कोस्टल एरियाज में खास तौर पे जहां साइक्लोनिक इफेक्ट लगातार आती रहती है वहां पे ये इफेक्ट को सह पाए उस प्रकार के शेल्टर हाउसेस बनाए हैं। ये शेल्टर हाउसेस में 5,535 लोगों को शिफ्ट किया गया है।
कोस्टल इलाके में कच्चे मकानों में रहने वाले थे, झोपड़पट्टी में रहने वाले लोग थे, उन सभी को सलामत जगहों पे स्थानांतरित कर दिया है। इनको शेल्टर भी दे दिया गया है, उनको आहार और उनके हेल्थ की भी वहां व्यवस्था कर ली गई है। यहां एनडीआरएफ की 2 टीमें मौजूद हैं, एसडीआरएफ की 1 टीम भी इधर काम पे लगी हुई है। हमारे नेवी के लोग भी यहाँ के तंत्र के साथ जुड़े हुए हैं।
Vinaya Deshpande joins us now from Dwarka with the latest. Vinaya, what's the situation on ground?
Well, yes, I am in Dwarka, which is also likely to face the brunt of the cyclone as it moves closer towards landfall. As of now, in Dwarka alone, over 5,500 people have been moved away from low-lying areas and from areas where heavy rainfalls have been experienced sporadically. As you can see, the kind of wind speed has only increased in the last 24 hours. There has been sporadic heavy rainfall as well. The surge in the sea is visible now, though it is lesser as compared to yesterday, primarily because of the tide action as well. We expect that later by evening, the sea will swell further. What is important is that several teams of NDRF, SDRF have been pressed into action. The army is in action mode. So is the Coast Guard as well as the Navy. For Kutch region alone, 40,000 food packets have been kept ready by the administration so that they can be distributed in case there is any necessity after the landfall of the cyclone, which is expected to happen after around 7 p.m. tomorrow. The wind speed is also expected to increase. It has already increased substantially. We have been reporting from here for the last 24 hours. Yesterday it was still possible for us to stand here and to record our walkthroughs, but today, as you can see, the wind speed is so high that it's getting very difficult to stay stable, to hold all the instruments and to record the elements from here. What is important though is that the administration says that at several locations like these, which are the coastal areas, it has imposed section 144 in order to make sure that people do not gather in large numbers on such locations. There is bandobast that has been kept at several locations. We spoke to a union minister as well as the Gujarat Home Minister of State with respect to the kind of preparations that have been done for Cyclone Biparjoy. And as of now, the government says that the situation looks pretty much under control, even as several teams have been placed on standby in order to deal with the after effects of the landfall. As of now, as we have been reporting from Dwarka, the wind speeds are only increasing, and so is possibly the trouble for several who live in the low-lying areas. People have been advised to stay indoors. Trains stand cancelled. Air operations also have been affected. Road transport has been affected. Several highways are being monitored regularly by the government in order to make sure that in case of any damage due to the incessant rain and growing wind speed, if there's any tree fall or electricity poles come down, then at least the national highways are to be kept cleared. That is why we are seeing that the administration has resorted to dividing several patches of highways in different zones which have been entrusted to several agencies which are continuously monitoring the situation. So as of now, this is what the ground situation in Dwarka is. Back to you.
All right, so the wind speed's only increasing there. Thank you so much for those details, Vinaya, and please do stay safe. So cyclone expected to make landfall tomorrow after 7 p.m. But the government says the situation right now is under control. On that note, it's time to wrap up this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue on the other side. Stay tuned.